You're listening to the Journey to Launch podcast, the 4 things you must focus on to fail-proof your journey to financial independence.
T-minus 10 seconds.
Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast with your host, Jamila Souffrant. As a money expert who walks her talk, she helps brave journeyers like you get out of debt, save, invest, and build real wealth. Join her on the journey to launch to financial freedom in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, journeyers. Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast. Thank you for joining me. Today's going to be a solo episode. I have not done a solo episode in a while. Funny thing is I have so much content, so much recorded episodes already in the bag that I just need to get out to you guys. And so I'm working on getting this content to you. Thank you for showing up each and every week. The podcast now has well over 600,000 downloads. And so my goal of hitting 1 million downloads this year looks like it's going to happen. So I might have to push that goal a bit higher. So thanks again for listening, for sharing this with your family and friends. This week, I want to talk about fail-proofing your journey to financial freedom. And by failing, it does not mean that there won't be setbacks and that you actually will not experience some delays and some losses, quote unquote, meaning you're going to have setbacks, but they're not going to stop you if you focus on these 4 things. And you've heard me talk about some of these 4 things before, but I wanted to go into detail on it a bit more. Now, I'm really excited because if you're listening to this in real time, so this podcast comes out on March 27th, Wednesday, and I want to make sure that you know about a free class that I'm holding on March 28th. That's this Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I want you to join me. So you can go to journeytolaunch.com/free class to register and get your spot. I'm going to be talking more about this, exactly what I'm talking about in this podcast, in the free class, plus lots more. And so if you're going to love this content, which I'm sure you will, then you're going to love the free class. So once again, go to journeytolaunch.com/free class to grab your spot. Before I jump into the topic, I want to make sure that you are following me on social media at Journey to Launch. I'm there on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I love when you guys are connecting with me on my social media channels, letting me know what you think about the episode, your biggest takeaways. And as always, if you're listening to this in Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave that review. At the end of the podcast, I'm going to be reading a Journeyer review of the week. And so if you want to get your chance to hear yourself on the show, then leave a review. And as always, you don't need to listen to an Apple Podcast. If you don't have an iPhone, you can listen to this anywhere. As long as you're just sharing this with your family and friends, that's all that matters. Okay, let's get into the topic of this episode. I wanted to talk about the 4 things you must have. And I like actually just doing lists like this because it just makes it more digestible at the information I give you. So 4 things that you must have and focus on to fail-proof your journey to financial freedom and independence. Now, I talked about these 4 things before, but here are what they are. Here's the list. It's your mindset. I love talking about mindset. Actually, my most downloaded or popular episodes are the ones where I focus on mindset. So mindset is one. Investing is another. And I'm not just talking about investing in the markets and stocks. I'm going to talk about different types of investing that you need to be doing that I find that we don't focus on enough in the personal finance space. The third one is income. I like telling you guys that it's really the income that drives how fast you're going to be able to reach your goals. And the fourth is expenses. And you've heard me say and talk about these 4 items probably before, but I'm going to bring it together in a way, hopefully that makes even more sense and motivates you more to focus on these things intentionally in your life. So first things first, I want to get the quote unquote more typical things out the way that you kind of probably already know that you should be focusing on in order to reach your goals. The first is income. I always say that income is a driving force in the financial freedom and independence pathway. The more you earn, and obviously on the other side, you need to also keep that money and save and invest that money. But the more you earn, the more you're able to bring in income and save that income and invest that income towards your goals, the faster you'll be able to reach your goals. So it's really, really important that you find ways to increase your income. Now, I have numerous episodes about that, and you will probably not have a lack of content around how to increase your income just throughout the personal finance space. So whether that's starting a side hustle, that's earning more money through your current job by simply asking for a raise. And I don't mean to say simply to say that that's easy. I know a lot of you guys have problems about how do you ask for a raise and how you negotiate. But through your current job, there are probably opportunities for you to make more money. So through overtime and asking for a raise, through education, where your skill sets will then allow you to get a promotion or do other jobs that will be able to give you more money. But it's really important to focus on income on this journey. A lot of people don't make enough. So if you're earning minimum wage, and I'm not talking about people who want to earn minimum wage. Now, I'm saying want to, meaning like they purposely pick jobs where they can afford and they want to not earn that much. They don't want to necessarily be in corporate America where they're earning six figures. They are totally fine where they're earning, because a lot of people in the financial independent space, well, not a lot, but I find that some people in the financial independent space, they'll say, well, I live a very low cost of living lifestyle and I only earn this amount and I'm okay. And that's great. But I know a lot of people who don't want to be earning minimum wage, who want to be earning more. And because of circumstances outside of them, but now that they have their own power, because we talk about power, right? Taking back your power a lot in this podcast and in my content, is that you want to earn more. And so it's really important that, people who have lower earning power start to figure out how to increase that earning potential, to increase their skill sets, to get better jobs. So income. And I feel like I talked about this before a lot, but wanted to make sure that you knew that was one thing that you just need to focus on. There's no going around it. Income is a driving force to reaching your goals. The second thing is expenses. And you will hear this often also in the personal finance space. Expenses. And, I find that I am the kind of person where I won't say to you like, oh, everything needs to be frugal. You don't need to spend any money. For me, I think everyone's journey is different. And whether you like nice bags or nice cars, or you don't like spending on nice cars or not even nice cars, I'm obviously that is all subjective, but meaning you choose what you want to spend your money on, but realizing that there's an opportunity cost for every dollar that you spend somewhere, especially if you have goals that you want to reach. And so when I talk about expenses, and even when I talk about cutting back and saving money so you're not just spending money without thinking about it, it's really all about being mindful of how you spend. And it's not to come from a place of deprivation to say you can't enjoy your life. It's to reframe it in a way where the way you spend is in alignment with your life, in alignment with your goals and what truly make you happy. So it's not just spending because you have to or you don't know how else to not spend. It's you're getting the control back. And so, for example, like the little simple things. I know people like to rag on the whole paying for coffee every day and the fact that that won't make you rich if you stop doing that. But for me, when I tell someone to look at how much they're spending on the smaller expenses, it's not to deprive them. It's to help them flex that thoughtful muscle about how they spend. And again, if that coffee brings you joy, if you can truly afford it and it is not in competition with your goals, by all means, go get that coffee. I do that. I still buy coffee out. I still go out to eat. I still buy expensive drinks at restaurants. I live in New York City. So it's not necessarily about not spending ever. If you choose to be frugal and that works for you, I'm going to applaud you for that. And I'm going to look at your stuff and say, how can I apply some of that? But if you enjoy spending money, that's okay. All I'm asking you to do is to be more thoughtful of it. And so when it comes to expenses, while on the income side, it's about earning more, for the expenses side, I just want you to be thoughtful. I want you to be thoughtful about how the money you spend directly corresponds and either helps or impedes you reaching your goals. Okay, the third thing. Now, I'm going to talk about investing, and the investing does incorporate the typical investing you hear in the personal finance space. So the investing in your 401k and your 403b and your savings account, all that is what you need to be doing. You need to be investing in the markets. I mean, if you just have that's like if you have a bunch of cash and you put it under your mattress, that's not investing. That's actually your money is going to lose value over time because of inflation. So we kind of know that. I mean, and even if you don't know the specifics about where to invest and you're still a little confused around those topics, I totally understand. There's so much information out there, but I want to talk about investing in other ways, in ways that I don't feel like are focused on enough or that people don't value enough. So when we talk about investing, it's not going to only be with necessarily putting money outside into the stock market or retirement accounts. We also need to be investing in ourselves. I always say this, but you are your biggest asset. Your mind is your biggest asset. You know how they say for a lot of millionaires or people who are wealthy or doing really well, that if you took their money away, most of them would probably be able to make their money back in 3-4 years or whatever time frame. And that's because the money, yes, it's important to fund your lifestyle, to fund your dreams, to fund the things you want. But without that, what do you have? Without the money, you have your skill sets, you have your mind. And so the reason why they say wealthy people that are really smart businessmen, smart people will be able to like make their money back. You know, Jay-Z has that line in that song. I forgot what it's called. It says, "Put me anywhere on God's green earth and I can triple my worth." Meaning doesn't matter what situation you put him in, because of his mind, because of his skills, he's going to be able to earn money and to bring value and to triple his worth. So what does that mean? That means we should be investing in our minds. So, you know, part of that is going to be investing with money. So let's just say courses or classes. You know, if, for example, when it comes to earning more money in your income, when I mentioned before, you might need to take some classes, especially if your job doesn't pay for it. Or perhaps you want to change careers, right? You have to change career fields and you want to do something different. You might have to invest to get a degree or a certificate. And I'm not talking about, you know, going into debt to do that, but I'm talking about you might have to pay for that kind of education. And some of it with investing in your skills is not always about spending the most money. It's about reading. It's about being curious. It's about spending time, investing your time to learn. And so when we talk about education, there's a lot of resources online. There's a lot of books that you can pick up to help you read, but you need to invest that money. So people usually come to me and say, I want to learn how to invest. And I get it. You know, they're talking about the stock market. They're talking about making their money work for them. But I want to understand, and I want to make sure you understand that it's about making your mind work for you. Your mind is your biggest asset. Your mindset, your education, these things cannot be valued necessarily. Like it's so intangible for so many people where they rather spend that money outside of themselves because at least there's proof, I would say, that they have, you know, they've accomplished this. You know, they can open up a bank statement or investment account statement and see the money in there, which is fine. But you don't necessarily see the direct correlation when you sit down for 30 minutes instead of watching TV. Again, no shame on watching TV. I love some housewives too. But instead of doing some of those things, you're investing back into your mindset. You're investing back into your skill set. You're reading, you're writing, you're journaling. I mean, some of this stuff you don't have to pay money to do. You can go to the library. You can, you know, start writing out your thoughts for free. So I want to make sure that when we're talking about reaching financial freedom and financial independence, we are not just talking about investing in outside things like the market and accounts and all those things, but we are talking about investing in ourselves because you want to be the kind of person that it literally does not matter where you are on the spectrum, on the journey. So whether you're just starting out, whether you're further along, whether your earning potential right now is not as, you know, you're not realizing the income you want to see, but because you have the mindset, because you're investing, you know, you're investing into becoming someone who is super focused on your goals, who is willing to put in the work, that you will be able to triple your worth. And, you know, maybe it does not happen in a year, right? I mean, I've seen people where they were able to make drastic increases to their situation, to their income, to their life in a short amount of time. But maybe it won't be a year for you, but because you are consistently investing in yourself in these ways, you're able to reach those kind of goals. Mindset is another one. And so I find that mindset is another hard one. You know, before I was talking more about skills, but mindset meaning how committed you are to staying focused on the journey, how you believe in yourself in reaching these goals. Because knowing and believing are two different things. I had a friend say this to me the other day because we were talking about something, and I think a lot of people know what to do, right? So if you're listening to this podcast, you have a good head start because you know that there is something better out there for you. You're on the path. You're listening to this. You are taking the proper steps. You know it. But so many of you have not taken action because you don't believe that you can do it. And maybe you tried things in the past. They have not worked. Maybe you have some naysayers around you, or it's not a great environment. It's not a positive environment that keeps your mindset cultivated with winning. So you often find yourself doubting what you can actually do. I get it. I get that. But with the mindset part of things, believing in yourself is, so many people don't. So many people have a hard time. And let me tell you something, belief in yourself is not always constant. I think there are some people who can say 100%, I believe in myself. I don't have doubts. Show me that person and I want to shake their hand. But it's not something that everyone masters 100% of the time. Even for myself, I have a high belief in myself. This is how I'm able to do the things that I do. This is how I was able to quit my job. This is how I was able to start this podcast. This is how I'm able to reach my goals because I have a belief in myself. But that doesn't mean that I don't have doubts and fears and that there isn't that little negative Betsy in my mind telling me all the things that I can't do and judging everything I'm doing. And so it's really important that I invest the time and the money and the patience to cultivate a mindset that is a winning mindset, a mindset where that negative Betsy or whatever her name is, that's always it's just yapping off at the mouth sometimes in my head, where I can tell it to shut up because I'm creating so many positive reinforcements around cultivating my mind. So I want to make sure that we're talking about investing in a broader sense, in a bigger sense, because it's not just about investing in the market. Now, I want to talk about the mindset. So I know I talked about investing in your mindset in the investing part, but the fourth and final thing is really, really important. And when I've interviewed a lot of people on this podcast and I've seen it firsthand with my own situation and other people in real life. And one thing that everyone that has accomplished anything, even if you read biographies or you follow your favorite, rappers or sports stars or whoever you idolize or feel that you look up to, even Oprah. I remember I posted this on my personal Instagram, Jamila Souffrant, about Oprah and her mindset before she became the Oprah that we know today. She believed in herself 160%. Now, believing in herself for her meant that, and the interviewer asked her, what if your show doesn't do that well? She was just coming out with the Oprah show. And she said back that, listen, whether the show does well or not, I'll be okay because I'm not tied to the outcome of how well the show does. I inherently will be okay because my value is not tied to that and I'm going to win anyway. I'm paraphrasing, but basically that was her mindset. And so when I think about how you need to focus on making sure you protect your mindset and how much you believe in yourself, it is super important. You almost have to alter your reality. Now, what does that mean? How do you alter reality? I'm not talking about taking any type of drugs or doing anything necessarily too weird. But what I'm talking about is that for a lot of us, we did not see the bigger possibilities of the world growing up. Maybe we had glimpses of it if you were raised in a more progressive household or your parents really instilled or tried to show you more than you might have. And I feel like I've had those experiences. My mom tried to show me there's a bigger world out there than, just Brooklyn. There's so much more for you to do and see. And so I had a lot of dreams growing up, but what I'm realizing is that a lot of us don't have that, right? And because in real life, even now, you're listening to this podcast, you're amped up. I have a lot of you reach out and say, I am so motivated. I am so inspired by your content. And I know you are because you're telling me all the things you're doing. I'm like, yes, but I know it's hard because once you turn this podcast off, you go back into the real world. And sometimes the real world, not sometimes, most times, the people in your real life are not doing the things that you're doing. They don't understand what you're doing. For them, the norm is working in a job that they don't like and complaining about it. For them, the norm is, spending money they literally don't have. Like they're putting on credit cards. That's the norm. And so when you look at it, you're like, so you can easily get pulled back into not believing that there's another life for you, that you deserve more, because again, your reality is off and not in alignment with what your inner being can accomplish. And so you need to alter that reality. And how do you alter that? I'm talking about like mentally, always having positive reinforcements around you. And so I did that when I was starting on my journey, and I binge listened to podcasts. Like all the podcasts I listened to, like it was just like on repeat. It was all about reaching financial independence. It was reading stories about people doing it. It was hearing and surrounding myself with things where like the normal, my reality was that people like living a lifestyle where you were going to be in debt, working forever and being unhappy in a job. Like that was abnormal. When I listened to the podcast episodes that I listened to, when I read the blogs that I did, when I read the books that I did, right? And so you can create and alter your reality by changing your environment. Now, I know, again, it's hard if physically, when you turn everything off and you close the book, you have the real world, but you really need to immerse yourself with what inspires you, what keeps you motivated. And I'm telling you, like, do that constantly. So whether that's on your commute, you're listening to podcasts, you're reading, whether before bed, at lunchtime, whether you have sticky notes around your house or when you wake up or on your phone, if you want to have some reminders, that like positive reminders, like immerse yourself with positive reinforcement on the journey. You must create an alternate reality where the things that you once didn't even know existed or you thought were abnormal become normal. They become like, this is what I should be doing. And then you start looking at everyone else like they're crazy. And maybe, they don't get it. And that's fine, because you know that there are other people like you, other journeyers who get it. We get you. I get you. So changing your reality and focusing on your mindset is super important. And then shifting your beliefs. And that will come with when you are changing your reality and constantly listening to positive reinforcements. It will naturally happen that your beliefs will shift. And then you go from the knowing, so you know what you should be doing, you know what you need to be doing. But then when it comes time to act on it, you're acting on it because you believe in yourself. Now, once you hear all this, I hope it continues to give you motivation. But I believe another thing that holds people back is that, yes, you hear this content, you hear this information, you kind of know it, right? Deep down, you know this stuff. So when sometimes you hear me say things, you'll find yourself probably nodding. I do the same thing when I listen to episodes from other people, and I'm like, I agree. And I agree because I know this inherently inside. I know this. So if we have gone to the point where not only do we know, right? So we know and believe we can do something. Why don't we do it? Why don't we act? Right? What's stopping you from acting on the information and the fuel that you have, right? To do something. What's stopping you from figuring out how to increase your income? What's stopping you from negotiating that salary? What's stopping you from starting that side hustle? What's stopping you from investing in yourself? Whatever that may be. What's stopping you? And I want to relay it back to actually something that happened to me recently. And it was just like one of those like aha moments where it was just like, this is totally what I'm talking about. Okay. So I know a lot of us are always waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity to do something, or maybe we're waiting for all of the facts, right? Or we're looking to make sure we understand every single thing before we make the next step. And sometimes we won't know what the next step is until we just make the next step. Even if it's the wrong step, it just needs to be a step. So by standing still, you won't get anywhere. You have to make movement. And even if you are like walking in the wrong direction, you won't know you're walking in the wrong direction until you start walking. And so I was actually rushing out the house. So I take my oldest son to school in the morning, and, typically we try to get out the house early, but sometimes it's just like, that's not happening. And I was driving him this day. So I needed to find the key. And typically I put the key where I usually put it. It's always by the clock in the activity center in our house. I could not find the key. It was getting late. And when you get, as you moms and dads know, you drop your kids off, then you got to go through the front door. It's like a whole hassle. I just didn't want to be late that day. And so I was looking for the key. I could not find the key. Went upstairs, looked under the couch. I looked everywhere. I probably spent maybe about 5 minutes looking for the key. And I said to myself, where is this key? Like, I always put it in the same place. Now, I could have spent more time looking for the key, but I just immediately sprung into, okay, what's my next level? What's my next train of thought? Like, how do I make this situation work? Now, walking my son to school, he would have been late, but I said to myself, I can either stay looking for this key, and who knows if I'll find it, or I can just, get it going, start walking, and maybe he'll be a couple minutes late, but he'll be at school and we'll make it happen. And I was like, I was ready to just take action, even though it wasn't the action that I necessarily wanted, because I would have preferred to be able to just drive. I said, you know what? I just need to take action. Instead of running around this house for the next 10, 15 minutes looking for this key that is missing, I'm going to act. Well, would you know that once I decided that I was going to act, even though it wasn't the perfect action I wanted to take, so I started to put on my shoes, that my keys were in my shoes. Yes, my keys were in my shoes. So unless I would have made that decision to just go to plan B and to just make it work, I would have been searching my house, for who knows how long, until I would have just gave up and said, all right, I'm even more now late because I just spent all this time waiting for the perfect moment or for the perfect situation. But because I said, screw it, I'm going to just act right now. I'm just going to make it work. I put on my shoes and my keys were in my shoes. And that's how I found the keys to then drop my son off. And we were not late, by the way. We were on time. But it just goes to show you that so often we're not making the movements and improvements and actions in our life because we're waiting for the perfect thing, for everything to be what we want it to be. Not realizing that just by moving forward, not even knowing what the outcome is going to be, that's when not only do sometimes you find a better route, but the route that you wanted happens, it occurs. And that's what happened when I put my foot in my shoes and I found the keys. So I thought that was just interesting, because as soon as it happened, I said, isn't this just one of those further proofs of life, and how oftentimes we have lessons in our lives that can translate into other areas that could be applied to bigger concepts. And this was one of them. And so while you're listening to this podcast, while you know now the 4 things you must focus on, again, I'm going to recap. It's your income, your expenses, it's investing. And, we talked about the different types of investing, and it's your mindset. Focusing on those things on your journey will help you succeed. There's no way you won't succeed on all your goals once you're focusing on all those things. And so I want you to think about these 4 areas of your life more, and how you can improve and increase them, or be more mindful with them and protect them. But then think about how you're going to act. So I don't only want you to think, guys. I want you to think now, okay, now that I know these things, now that I have a better understanding, what do I do next? What's your action? And you don't have to wait for the perfect response, right? You don't have to wait for your brain to give you the perfect response, but you do need to act. And one of the ways that I actually hope that you act is by joining me in this free class that I'm hosting on Thursday, March 28th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I just discussed in this episode, but lots more. And so I want to bring it together because I really want to help you have your financial freedom launch plan. I want to help you develop that a bit more. And I'm going to be able to do that in this webinar and in this free class. So I really hope that you can join me. Again, it's March 28th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and hope to see you there. You can do that by going to journeytolaunch.com/free class. Once again, that's journeytolaunch.com/free class. I'm really excited. I haven't done one of these free kind of classes to everyone in a while. I'm constantly in the launch club doing stuff like this, but I'm excited that I'm able to bring just some more resources to you, journeyers and listeners of the podcast. So come join me. All right. I hope you enjoyed my talking points on this episode. I really hope you got something out of it. If you need to listen to it again and take notes, please do. As always, make sure you share this with your family and friends. Share it with someone who you want to recruit with you on this journey to financial freedom and independence. Also, invite them to the free class if you can. Awesome. The more people you have on your journey in the real world, the better, the more chances you're going to have at succeeding. For the episode show notes, you can go to journeytolaunch.com/episode 90. Remember to connect with me on all social media. I'm at Journey to Launch on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Now, before I go, I did want to read that review of the week from Apple Podcast. So this person, the Force 1818, says, "This is my first FI podcast." He or she says, "I only decided just a few months ago to take control over my finances because I felt like there just had to be a better money narrative to my life. Then I found Journey to Launch. It's my first financial independence podcast, and I have been binge listening to all the episode. Jamila is so warm and personable, and her interviews are incredible. I am more inspired to attain FI than ever before because of her podcast. Give this a listen. I can assure you it's worth it." Yay. Thank you so much, the Force 1818. And I really appreciate each and every review that you guys leave. I read them. It really keeps me motivated on this journey to continue to give you great, great content. And I have lots of great things in store. So stay tuned. Okay. Until next week, keep on journeying, journeyers.